In our previous lesson, we're able to take and add some dimension and some really nice detail for our hair. And so in between lessons, I just kind of finished out the hair using the methods that I was showing you. And so now we're going to spend some time on our hands. So let's make sure that we are on our hands or the skin tone layer. And let's take a look at our reference. And so you can see that we have lots of shadows here that we're going to actually utilize or we're going to mimic. And so what we'll do is we're just going to grab our brush tool, and let's grab our super soft brush that we created. And so remember that it's just a 7% flow. It is 100% opacity. And what we'll do is we're going to just grab some of the shadowy area that we already have. And then for our mode, let's choose multiply. Let's just zoom in a little bit. I'm going to decrease my brush size, and what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of hit up some of these areas that you can see there's lots of shadow. So behind her knuckles, you can see that there's lots of shadow back there. So we'll go ahead and darken that up. And then here underneath the palm, and it kind of wraps up around her knuckle like that. And then it also actually kind of hits the side of that finger. And then on the edge of that finger, and then down here below her digits, it kind of wraps around. I'm going to decrease that brush size a little bit more so that I can really get in there. You can see that it kind of wraps around this finger, and then it also comes up around this knuckle. And so you can see that it really has a big part in how this part of the finger looks. And so I'm just kind of tapping and adding that shadow. And then you can see we also have some shadow to add on that one. And up around this knuckle. And then let's see here. For this knuckle, that shadow does come in a little bit more. And then it kind of comes down. And so we have these little shadows too that we'll add. And we'll also take and blend this in, and then we're going to add some highlights as well. So that shadow really comes through and makes the little shape it looks like on this knuckle. And so you almost have this almost like a triangle. So once we have that, then we're going to start to blend some of this. And so what's great, or what's really important about the hands, is that the hands really tell a story, and it's real important that you get the hands right. Because if you were to just try and just go off of your memory of what you think a hand looks like, then it's going to look a lot different than what a hand really does look like. So that's why we're making sure that we stick close to our hand reference. I'm going to choose, so for our mixer brush, let's grab our skin blender, the brush that we created. We'll bring that brush size down. I'm just going to sample some of our other flesh tones, maybe here in the forehead. I'm going to go through and just kind of blend out some of these areas here. And so we do still have some areas that the highlights are kind of poking through. And so I'm going to just kind of go over those. And then we're also going to take and we're going to add some more some darker shadow. So let's go ahead, and after we've blended some of these areas in, then I'm going to grab my line tool. So let's grab our brush and then open up, and we're going to grab that line tool brush that we created. We're going to change our mode to multiply, and then let's choose a color that's kind of dark. And then we're going to come in and you can see these really dark areas of shadow. We're just going to accentuate them. And then you can see that kind of comes down. And that's about where our finger is. And so some of this will be hidden by the arrow in our illustration. So you can see if we bring up our pencil sketch, that there's going to be an arrow here that kind of hides some of this, and a string, things like that. I'll go ahead and close that out. And then let's add this shadow right here that comes down for that finger. And I'm going to kind of draw that part of our fingertips. And so for this finger, actually, we have just a little bit of shadow. Go ahead and sketch that in. And then we can blend that here just a little bit. Go ahead and sketch in this fingertip. And then, let's see here, we do have this little shadow that kind of comes up over this knuckle. And then, let's go ahead and draw some of the details here for this knuckle. You can zoom in a little bit if you need to. So see how there's like this little shadow that kind of pops up. We're just kind of going to go ahead and create that look. And then how that shadow kind of comes back around. And if you squint your eyes, you can almost see a little bit more detail. So there's like this is a faint shadow that comes down off of this knuckle. And it kind of comes up. You can almost make out the joints themselves. And then this one as well, you can see we have this little shadow that comes over. And then you can almost make out these two little bumps. And then I'm going to sketch out the side of that knuckle. And then we'll go ahead and add some shadow to this side, about like that. And then let's go ahead and take a look here at as our hand, the shadow for that finger, we'll add a little bit more. We're just going to sketch out a little bit more shadow. And then let's take a look at this one, about like that. Looks pretty good. And now let's make sure that this pinky back here has all its shadow. Great. And now that we have all of our shadows basically taken care of, then let's add some highlights. So now we'll go to lighten. And we're going to choose a lighter color. We'll pick on that knuckle color, but we'll go ahead and bring the value way up. We're going to sketch in some of our joints here. See, we have these little highlights here on the knuckle. And then on this one as well, these little highlights comes across. And so you can see that we have this little highlight that wraps around the hand right here. So we'll go ahead and bring those out. And then we also have a little bit of highlight that kind of comes off of this knuckle as well. And then we have some highlight on this knuckle. Comes down. And then here in between the fingers, we have just a little highlight that we can see. And it almost starts to fillet out or to kind of spread out around in here. And then on this side, don't forget about these little highlights that come across. And then it seems like we have a lot of highlight here on this knuckle. or on this part, this digit. Went a little crazy there. Back up a little bit. There we go. That's better. And then our pinky has a lot, so we're going to go ahead and allude to those highlights. We'll add just a little bit here, and then our knuckles themselves back here. And so you can see we also have some different colors that we should blend in for our knuckles. You can see that it looks like we have some reds that would really help them stand out. So what we'll do is we'll grab our super soft brush, and for our mode, let's change that to, how about darken? We'll bring our brush size down. Let's choose a pink color. So actually, this is going to work for us. And then just very lightly, we're going to hit just some of these knuckle areas here. Maybe let's try multiply. See if that works a little bit better for us. Yeah, that works better. So we're just going to hit our hands and our knuckles, adding just a little bit of that pink that we have. And then maybe a little bit more up here. And then now let's grab our mixer brush. And we're going to choose like a more neutral color in here. Maybe even lighten it up a little. And we're just going to come through and just help blend out some of these areas. So that we don't see our brush strokes. And then if we need to come back over with some more highlights, we can do that as well. And so we're just kind of taking through and coming through and just thinking about how the skin would fold. And so maybe down here we just push this over a little. You might even choose a dark color for our blending down here. And we can just use that dark to help blend in some of these shadows. And then we can swap the foreground and background when we get up to the knuckles. Kind of push that around a little bit. Just like that. And then maybe again trade out for the shadowy areas as we blend those areas through. About like that. And then trade out for the knuckle. So it looks like we've got a lot done here for our hands. I think that looks really, really good. I think what would help us is if, now that we have our hands really, we've got a lot of detail here. We could actually take and blend some of these areas of skin in the background. Will probably help us out a little bit. But there's also going to be an arrow that's going to come right through here, so we won't even be able to see that. But it's still helpful to spend some time practicing kind of blending all these colors. And so, we're able to, really take that hand and use it as a nice reference. And so I think the last thing that I'll do for this hand is just go through and grab our brush tool, change that to lighten or screen, and I'm just going to hit those highlights again for our knuckles. And so I'll just maybe even use an even lighter color than that. And we're just going to hit up and just really make some of those little areas pop on our hand. About like that. And then I'll add a little bit more to some of these other areas. And so that is our hand lesson. So you can see you're spending a little bit of time on the hands makes a huge difference in how your drawing is going to look. And so, you know, take our technique, how we're looking at the hand, looking at the shadows, adding in color, blending it in. You can see it looks pretty awesome. And so in between lessons, I'm going to work on this hand and get it to look just as awesome as this one. So again, you know, take these techniques and move over to this hand. And then in our next lesson, we're going to start working on our gear again. And we're going to take and add highlights and shadows and things. And so stick around and